me ask you this: Has any of the other guests you had this? I'm fifth guest,
Six.
Has anybody else brought you coffee?
Mm-mm.
Interesting. So just note that for the camera and for
I
the
did
podcast.
film David at Cargo and got free beer.
So, but they didn't bring you coffee then, right? On the way.
Correct. Thanks for tuning in for episode 6 of the Indie Film Hub podcast. We are here with Chad Goss. Actually, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Hello, I'm Chad Goss, logo filmmaker, Greenville, South Carolina, assistant director, jack of all trades, master of none.
That's very much true in our world, as you just got to be good at everything, it seems, these days. But I am Rhodes, your host, and today's fit is Reedy Reels t-shirt. Woohoo! This year we just had our film festival, our local one. So today we're going to talk about a lot of different ideas of just being on set and how to be on set and what sets to be on and all those kinds of things. Chad here is, like he said, jack of all trades, master of none. He has been on every kind of different set and kind of did things in reverse a little bit too.
Absolutely.
So we're just gonna kind of hear what that experience is, and maybe that's something you guys can relate to, and learn some tips and tricks about how to be on set. It's not, yeah, we're gonna figure it out as we go.
Sweet.
All right, so where did you start?
Yeah, so leading into that question, people always ask like, hey, how do I get my start in the film industry, or is that even possible? For me, it was like, is that something you can just jump into? Do you have to go to school? And it's always these same questions. So for me, I had some friends in my school who were doing YouTube stuff, and they were making their first like short film. And I don't think I knew the difference between short films and feature films. Didn't know any C-stand
Just filming.
cameras. Yeah,
Yeah.
Didn't know. I just knew they were making something. Sent them a message. I was like, I'd love to be a part of that. And that was kind of my first introduction, opening up to the world of just, making stuff from camera to screen, and fell in love with it. And so anyway, it was just a step after that. I just did more and more stuff and got plugged in, got on the Facebook groups and said, hey, how can I help out? I'd love to be a part of this. And I just kept meeting people and working on their projects, and then finding out what equipment was called, and, making the mistakes of what not to do. And it just kept growing from there.
And you like knowing people just like I do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love people.
Because, I mean, we started our local networking group, and, I had pulled in a few people, Tim had pulled in a few people, but really, when you showed up, you're like, oh, I got everybody.
Yeah.
And you just got everyone connected and brought them all in, and it started growing. Like, you were a key factor in that.
Thank you.
But having all those connections, there's a lot of work behind building up to that point.
For sure. Well, I think Greenville needed it for a long time, and South Carolina was like a hub. So I think we had like Group A and Group B, Group C, but they were all unaware of each other. And so we needed like one place to like filter through. You know what I mean? Like actually having a place that was like a coherent spot where we could all go and like be aware of each other.
Consistent.
Yeah. So
what all have you done to get up to the point you are now? Like you've been on lots of different types of sets, done lots of different roles. Just what's the expanse of that?
So when I started, the roles I knew was like you had your director, you had your DP, which at that point I think I just called it a cameraman, and you had a producer. So I knew what a producer was because I come from like a background of like working in retail. So it was kind of like a manager, a person that makes things happen or gets funding. There's different kind of producers, but I was like, I could do that. I don't really know how to really run a camera or like direct people, but I was like, I can produce. That sounds easy. And so I really got thrown in the fire, like having no concept and not knowing a lot of people in the industry to try to produce a film with no money. And so I learned a lot of hard lessons. And it was very interesting, but it was like so great to learn those lessons early.
If you knowing what you know now, would you have still called yourself a producer back then?
So I'm a big believer in not necessarily fake it as you make it, but I think that it's okay to call yourself something because then you'll start to believe it and you'll work into that role. I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily asked for money when I did it, and I still took very little, but it's something I should have probably just did voluntarily or like maybe had a person under me that I could have been like an associate producer, probably would have been a better way looking back instead of just like I'm a producer of a film, because I definitely didn't have the knowledge to make the product what it should have been.
Does that make you feel different when someone comes up and says, "I'm a producer,"
I,
and you're like, "Are you?"
I feel like that whenever people talk anyway, they're like, I'm a director, I'm a producer. Always, even myself when I say it, I try to say I'm a filmmaker, because I feel like, and I've got better the last couple of years, but I feel like whenever I say I'm a director or I'm, whatever, I always feel super pretentious. It's just because it's that vibe some people do, like, well, I'm a, director or whatever, and it's like you haven't done anything, and it's just like, and it's the words they sound way more important than they are sometimes. So I usually just try to be like, I'm a filmmaker, and I let my actions speak for me. It's kind of been my mindset the last couple of years.
So what other roles have you done? And
Yes.
what other sets have you been on too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started, like I said, producing, did a couple of those. I PA'd. I really like assistant directing. I've done that.
Everyone should PA, no matter what role you are.
Absolutely,
You should always be a
absolutely.
PA.
Yes. I've ran sound before. Um, boom operator. I have been production manager. I dabbled a little bit in gripping. Um, what
You just got
else?
to do art department.
Yeah, art department for the first time. The only thing I've never really done is been DP, and I've never like been a driver in catering.
Yeah.
Everything else, I've kind of even like kind of assistant camera, not really though, but sort of. So I've really almost done every single role, and the reason why I wanted to try every single role, like top of the pyramid goal for me is to direct. And I had one of my mentors tell me one time, he said, if you want to be a good director, you better know how to do every single role in set, especially even for AD, because if something goes wrong, you should be able to step in that position and take charge. And you should know how every department works. That way you can manage it and be a good director by understanding time, what it takes to, to do that department, having the knowledge, and then just knowing those departments helps you communicate with the people within those departments.
I I feel you on knowing everything, and I also feel you on jack of all trades, master of none. It's not, I had done solo work for so long, and then I came and met everyone that were like professionals in their niche or
Yeah.
their field or their department, and I was like, okay, well, I could definitely help out in each of those departments, but I'd rather hire them because they're just like focused in on that one thing, and so it kind of put me in a similar role of like, okay, maybe producing's the
Yeah.
thing I need to do or something like that because I have a really good understanding of all the different types of things going on set, but and I like assembly and event planning and stuff too. But I just got to meet so many people that were just had so much talent in a focused direction, and I didn't
I
specifically.
feel that so much. That's always been my secret. Like I always like, okay, I know my strengths and weaknesses, and I was like, I'll just hire people or make sure I get around people that I know are better than me in my weaknesses.
Yeah.
And I think that ease also makes you a good director or producer or whatever, because if you know your weaknesses, you know the people you need to build the team up.
Yeah.
So that is 100%. Yeah, I am the same 100%.
Another thing, yeah, another thing I've noticed about you is you're willing to do what no one else is, and also just whatever to get on set.
For sure.
Um, so being willing to doing what no one else is, then you're focused on like what needs to get done, what's missing, what's not happening, as when everyone else is focused on like just set, and you're taking care of stuff that needs to get done. And then on the other side, you're just jumping on set, whatever you can, and that's why you've done so many different roles.
Yeah.
So what makes do you feel like you're lessening yourself just by jumping on whatever you can, or like tell me about that?
Yeah, so I have a super interesting perspective, and this is like just my personal thing. I have kind of a sickness. I just love being on set. I get up at 5 in the morning. I'm super happy, no matter if I'm going to sweep floors or, hold a diffusion out in the sun for 8 hours. I'm just happy to be there. I love it. It's like a sickness. And the way I've always looked at it when I first started was, I didn't go to film school. Like I said, I started with like no experience, not knowing what anything was. Every time I was on set, whether it be a good set, bad set, mediocre set, I always took that as a chance to learn, and that was my film school. So even if whatever department I was doing, whatever role I was doing, I would be like a sponge and absorb what to do, what not to do, and see how the whole process. And so I've never felt like I was lessening myself or even being taken advantage of, even probably when I was sometimes, because my mindset was always glass half full. Let me absorb and get all this information so I can continue to be better. That was always the mindset I had, and it's always. I don't know if that's kind of naive, but like I said, you think you pay for film school, but you go for free. Most of the time, you get fed a meal, so that's still free film school essentially.
So after doing so many different types of sets and different roles, have you kind of focused and drilled out? I mean, you're saying AD
Absolutely,
now, you're saying
absolutely,
locations now. There's two things that you kind of like hit
absolutely.
on that you really like.
So ideally, assistant director is what I really like doing. I think I'm good at that because it's just logistics, and I'm super kind of ADHD, so it kind of helps me on set because I am so channel focused on so many things. So I really enjoy doing that. But I mean, directing is always been the long term goal. But it's like directing is not one of the things you can just do, especially if people don't know you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but I love AD. It's
The a title I call people like you is a film support specialist. It's
there you
like
go. I love that.
it's just whatever I need to do to support filmmaking.
Yeah,
So we did mention that you've been on several different sets. What are some of those different sets, and
yeah,
why are they different?
of course. Yeah, so I've done everything. I usually like where I'm at now in my career. I try to do. I've been really concentrating the last 2 years on really doing features. Like that's the goal, obviously, for any filmmaker. You want to do features, and like I've worked on everything from like no money, 12-hour a day free pizza to like 80 to 100K somewhere in there. You know what I mean?
But those have been commercial shoots,
Yeah, and
short
mostly
films.
narrative stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I don't think I've ever actually been on a commercial shoot that I know of. Really, I mean, like maybe kind of, but like
Hmm.
not a key role though. But yeah, I'm
Music videos
music videos.
for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Narrative stuff.
and now TV,
TV. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
broadcast
yeah.
stuff.
So yeah, so I've done literally a little bit of everything. I mean, we like I said done the fan films where you just help your friends out and make something for a day, short
And are
films.
those feel differently? Like being on different sets feel differently, or there's different crew, there's different, and not
Absolutely.
just budget, but like the way they're run.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So for me, we got our networking group, and we do short films, and it's just a handful of film fanatics out in the woods, just shooting stuff
Of course.
with whatever gear they've got, and people that are just willing to, or you like just ask around, hey, who's got an apartment, or who's got this blue couch, or who's got this newspaper stand. I don't know
For
what.
sure. For sure. And
But you've also got sets where, you know, there's someone in charge of walkies, and you actually have walkies on set, or you actually have a big budget to be able to do art department stuff, and like art department where you can just go buy it and then return it, and that's not always the case. So lots of different sets there. But you,
oh yeah, I was gonna say that kind of reminded me of like that. That is a huge challenge sometimes. Is like going back and forth from working on a really big set where they might have like $1 million budget or whatever, hypothetically, right? And so they have things where they have everything down to the T. They have plenty of help. And so you do that one weekend and making the transition back to working, with $3,000 and you're trying to shoot a short film in 3 days or whatever. It's always a challenge to rework your mind when you're so used to doing stuff a certain way. You have certain protocols you have to do, and then kind of going back to like run and gun, so to speak. It really does kind of mess with
yeah,
your brain because like you go on some sets and like everything's you have you have you're walkied up, you have walkie talkies, you have protocols you have to follow, safety stuff that has to be done. You have to have a certain, or you're only allowed to work so many hours a day. And then you go back to the other thing and it's like, hey, here's like you're working 12 hours, way less money.
or 48 hours,
Yeah,
or you're doing 17 hours a
you know what I mean. It's but so
day.
the one cool thing about that though is like this is another one of the things that I've learned is like I've tried to surround myself with like really awesome people who have gear and stuff. So when I am on those smaller projects, I take the knowledge from the bigger projects and I made friends with these people who have gear. And then a lot of times I try to borrow gear or the companies I work with. I've had those connections. So then you can almost emulate what sets are supposed to look like on the bigger set with no money. Because making those connections, a lot of times you can bring up your production value by having a friend that's a caterer that might do a really good rate for you, or working with a production company that has a gear or a grip chuck they can rent out to you for free or cheap. You know what I mean? Then you can simulate bigger, nicer projects and make your budget look better, your production better by building those connections. And that's why connections are huge.
Yeah, I feel like challenging yourself on some of those projects, um, where you would ask for something that you wouldn't normally ask for, then you start building connections that way. Because then you're
Absolutely.
calling people up and like, hey, can I use this space? Hey, do you have a truck or something I can borrow? And then you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna put that in my notebook for next time.
I've done that. I've had when we first I had a 3-person crew when I first started. We were like doing like beauty pageants and like weddings and stuff. And I remember one day specifically they were editing a project and I was just on my notebook and I was still producing at the time and I was just like going through Facebook, all my friends, and like, okay, this guy's an actor. He'd be great for the bad guy. This actor, he's like real expensive. I know he's not gonna do less than whatever. This person has a really cool muscle car. If we and like I went through every single person A to Z and wrote, how could they help me? Like as far as film people, what's their role? How can I remember them if I need that person? And I think the more you re-educate your mind as a filmmaker,
Yeah.
you think of people as film pawns, kind of. I know that sounds really bad, but like you know what I mean, like. And I love people, but at the same time, I'm always like, well, how can they help me in the film world? Like, what's you know what I mean? And like, I just always kind of look at people as things to help me get ahead. And I know that sounds kind of bad. You're not really using people, but you just when you have that mindset of a filmmaker, I look at every location as like this would be a cool location, or like people, and you start thinking like that.
How do I get into that space?
How do I get into that space? Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So a lot of people, they can go out with their friends, whether they have a few friends or they're looking for one or two people to help them. They may not have all the connections. So first thing, build connections. They're on set. They've done some things. How do they make that next step onto paid?
Yeah. I mean, two
Was it
things.
specifically connections?
I think it's two things. I think, like I said, being open to do everything and just to get the knowledge to be on set to learn stuff. So even if you want to be a director DP, I still think there's nothing wrong with PA, and because you learn so much just from a lower role like that, you can absorb, like I was saying earlier, a sponge. So I think yeah, the connections are huge, like probably most important. And then I think just having the availability and the openness to do whatever. You know what I mean? Because even, and I've done stuff where I know that like my talents or where I at could have been more useful, but I still took the opportunity because like even if you're on a bad set and you know it's a complete like disaster, and there's 10 people on set, if you meet that one person that might be like a sound guy or grip that sees that you're doing a good job, even just sweeping the floor, you're there, you have a good attitude, you're polite, you're cool, that one connection might be the thing that gets you that $500 day rate. And it's happened to me. Like I've done like 48 hours or a challenge, or I've worked 10 hours for free. That was a complete disaster, but I made that one connection, that one conversation. And same thing goes for networking events too. You go and I've drove an hour and had conversations, and that one connection has helped me get better jobs.
I think your superpower in the film industry is staying top of mind. Like you're always doing stuff, so you're always top of mind. People have experience working with you. They know if they like you or not. And you've met so many people on those sets that you just always stay top of mind because you're always active in it.
Dude, that's such a I really struggle with that even, and I think we all do. Everybody, I think we have this mindset as filmmakers because we all want to be on set constantly, right?
Yeah.
We all love doing it, and if we all could do it for free and just love it for the most, we would do it, But that's not the case, and you have to. And I think we get in our heads sometimes like, well, man, I know I could do a better job than that. This person, we compare ourselves to others, and we're like, why didn't they ask me to be on that? And we all go through that, you know what I mean, like constantly, and it is it's such a battle in your head and even in like trying to stay relevant. You know what I mean?
I have people ask me all the time for people and locations and stuff like that. And I'm just like, well, you could have just hired people.
Absolutely no,
Instead
no.
of giving you all my
Course,
contacts.
yeah, no, exactly. And that's kind of back to mindset. I always try to give more value
Yeah.
than I receive, and I know like 100%. Like I said, I've been taken advantage of times, and I know that like I've definitely gave value to people and like helped build stuff and been the catalyst for stuff, and I've never even got like a thank you, and like and that's just that comes with the territory. But at the same time, I'm super competitive in my head, and so I've always said I'm playing the long term game. So like and I get super competitive. So if I'm like you were saying, staying relevant, and like someone doesn't, want me to do something, I don't take that personally, like on a certain level, but like in my head, I'm like, all right, dude, I'll just outwork you next time, and then eventually, like you'll come up and you'll be like, you know what I mean, like. So I'm constantly in my head like super competitive, like that Michael Jordan
Make him
mindset.
regret not hiring
No,
you.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. But I'm at the same time on a service level, I'm super humble. I'm super humble, and I'm like, dude, thank you. That's cool. I don't take it personally, but at the same time, in my head though, in that whole spectrum, I'm like, dude, yeah, like I'll show you, man. Like I'll show you next time. I'll work you, and I have. I mean, I've done that. Like I have made people not regret, but like I've had people where it's like we've worked on set, and it's like somebody's like they didn't like me, they like unfriend me on Facebook, which is so stupid, right? On a surface level, but then on another level, I'm like, okay, I'll remember that. And so then 5 years later, they're like, dude, Chad, I really want to work with you on set. And it's like, dude, you like deleted me off Facebook like 3 years ago because I did something that made you mad. And it's like, so I get super competitive like that. And I think that helps me stay relevant because I'm always trying to go because I'm always in my own head trying to prove something to myself.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I get it. No.
Yeah. Sometimes working on projects and them getting finished, you're going to be more relevant because people are going to see that. And therefore, long term, it's going to help you with more jobs down the road. Instead of just working on stuff out of town constantly, where you're making really money, but nobody knows who you are. So it just depends on what role, like what you're. And I think reverse engineering is huge too. I think a lot of people need to figure out exactly what they want to do. Like if you want to go the commercial route, that might be one route that looks different from going the I want to direct my own stuff narrative route.
Yeah, I feel I'm a little more lean towards commercial or like
For sure.
just I guess the 5 day shoot. I don't features don't really. I don't know. I want to switch projects.
No, I got you. No, I totally get it. And
if it was an episodal, maybe like
no, of
it's
course,
different.
of
But
course.
I don't know. Just like a feature, I just like I want to be done with this.
Yeah, no, and I get it, and I've felt that, and I think every set always says blessed or cursed, and like I mean, sometimes you just have a really good set, sometimes you have a really bad set, but a lot of times, most time it's like in the middle, mediocre. Like I've never been on like a really amazing, like personally, like well, man, everything's going great. There's always issues, and that's why backing in pre-production is so important. But that's why,
Except for Clonely, of course.
no, of course, yeah, that was, but yeah, but like and that's where glass half full. You just have to take the good with the bad a lot of times, and like it's about perspective, and it's like, okay, well, I know this is going to be a problem or this person is going to be a problem, but then you just try to focus on the good and try to get through it as you're going.
Also, being on so many sets, you've learned what not to do. You've seen a lot of bad
Of course.
habits or bad practices.
Of course. Yeah. So I'm going to tie into something else I was thinking about too, but I can touch on that if that's what you. So yeah, like I have this little, like I'm super strategic. Like I said, I'm always playing a long-term game, and so I'm always like, every set I get on, like I said, I'm taking information into my brain like a sponge of what, as far as like the work and like how I'm learning stuff as I'm going. But at the same time, I'm also secretly kind of judging people. I'm just being super honest. And so I'm like, okay, well, I see how this person interacted with this person, and I see like their attitude, 12 hours is going to be different than their attitude in an hour. And so I'm constantly keeping like a little like tally in my head of
Do you
like
have a grain of salt
people.
with that? Like
Absolutely. I've even like wrote it down where I'm like, I have this list at home. It's like Chad's dream team, and it's like the A team, B team, and C team, depending on budget.
yeah,
right?
but like hour 11 on day 4, they're gonna.
Of course.
Yeah, you give them some grace.
No, I do absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, but the thing about that list, it constantly changes. So like, and I know that's super. I probably shouldn't be super honest about, but that I do. I'm like, I judge because I want the best people for the best project.
I'm afraid to ask where I land on that list.
No. Well, that's the thing. It constantly changes, and I try, and I'm super like understanding of people because I mean, people make mistakes and stuff like that. But I also like at the end of the day, I care more about the art and the project more than anybody's feelings. So like, I want the best people for the best projects, and that's where us as filmmakers also have to be honest with ourselves. Where do we fit in best to help grow the industry and to help grow the projects? And sometimes that's hard because like, even if I want to be a director, I'm not the best director. I know there's plenty of people that are better in the area that are better directors than me. And there's other people that are better producers than me or like whatever. And that's where you got to be honest with yourself and super transparent and, listen to others. But like, yeah, I constantly keep, a task and that like tilling marks of who would be my number one DP, my number one AD, my number one producer, and that constantly changes like from project to project and year from year, and it constantly moves around. And leading into that too about being super strategic is even like social media. Like I'm super at the beginning. It kind of works different. Like now that we're in the age of technology, where it's like a lot of times you meet people on social kind of first before you meet them in real life. So like I'm super strategic of like, okay, this person looks interesting, like, and I'll go to their Facebook or Instagram, and if they have a bunch of like cartoons or like a political stuff or whatever, most time I'm not as engaged if I know they have like BTS pictures on set, or if they're like doing camera reviews, they're building content within the world. That's the people I want to be around because they're like soaked in that world.
It really bothers me when people don't put their location on. And I know they want to be like, oh, I'll work anywhere,
For
sure.
sure.
But like, if you don't tell me that you're in Greensville,
Of course.
or you're, at least upstate, then like I'm not going to meet you probably. There's not going to be much of a connection. There's probably not going to be a project I can get on. It's not necessarily all about work, but I don't know, I want to be connected to the people around me, not necessarily someone in LA that's
Of course.
the very slim chance of
Yeah.
anything ever happening. So I'll focus my energy on things that are more important. And that's the local community for me. So it just drives me nuts that people don't put their location. They'll put what they do sometimes. Sometimes they don't even put that.
Yeah.
Just like a picture of me with a camera. It's like, you're actually a PA.
It's so weird, and that's what's so weird. It's like it's such a blessed and a cursed thing with the technology thing, because like you can, like I said, you can see how people, back I said about secretly judging people, you can see how people interact with people. Like there's some people that I really liked for projects, and I've seen their interactions just in comment sections and how they talk to people. I'm like, nope, never work on, like not never, but like I remember the way you came at this person, or like this thing, and that sucks that we're judged in the area, but it's almost like the things that we do in secret are being brought into the light, which is a good thing, I think. That like, you can't really hide if you're doing immoral, bad things, and I think that's why we need to just be good people. Because I mean, I had constant eyes on like people in social media, and I pay attention to like there again finding the best crew and the best people for the project.
Yeah, and you gotta see them in different environments too.
Of course.
Like me after one beer socializing with everybody is way different than me on set stressed with everything. Just like I'm just very straightforward and emotionless sometimes. Like this versus like, yeah, let's chit chat and let's have fun.
And that's also another good strategy that I've always like used to.
Have
that,
beer
like,
on set.
Well, that too. That too. Beer on set. Yeah, but like I remember faces really well, and I try to watch a lot of people's like projects, especially they put them online on film festivals and stuff that I like. I remember, because it's good, and I remember people, actors, and faces and stuff like that. And when I see them in person, that makes them more approachable. So I can go be like, "Hey, Rhodes, I really appreciated that short film you had to read this year. This is the first time I'm meeting you. I just want to tell you I saw you acted in that film. It was really great." And then then the actors like, "Oh, they remembered me," like, or the DP's like, "Oh, thank you. That's great that you recognize my work."
So when you're not on set, you're stalking people.
Well, dude, I mean, like I said, I'm super, like I said, I have a sickness, like I said before.
Yeah.
Like I'm super strategic, and like I said, I know that's my superpower is people, and like I said, connections are huge. And I remember, especially if someone looks interesting, or like, oh, that person's a set designer. Like I need a set. I don't have that in my, Chad's dream team list. The set designer. This person's really great. I'll have to remember them, and when I see them in person, I'll have to go meet them. And then I've even been in the room where I do know someone. I'm like, hey, like, thank you for inviting me. I already know you. Who should I meet in this room? And I just ask people.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're there to network, right? We're there to like build connections and make cool stuff. So
An introduction is always helpful.
Of course, yeah. And so
instead of just like going up to a random table and be like, hey.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are not in film.
That's super awkward. Yeah, yeah.
You guys are just watching the films. I mean, cool. I love the support. I would love it.
Yeah.
Are you an investor?
No, yeah. But it's.
How do you play a role in this? Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think that's been a huge benefit for me, is just like being aware of people on social, and like, and I know it's like super stressful, and that comes again with knowing your limitations. It's like I got to the point now where I try to set like a certain time, and then I'm off social media by like whatever time, 7 o'clock or whatever, because it can be very draining. And this is why it's important to know yourself, because you can, like depression's real, all that stuff. If you're constantly trying to be that game and play that game of networking and trying to be that person, and it's exhausting. You can be really depressed, and you can just be like, I've seen so many filmmakers be like go so hard so fast, and burnout happens just by trying to be relevant. And I think that's why it's really important to know your limitations and know yourself, and know that like none of it's personal. You know, we're all just trying to make stuff. At the end of the day, nothing's ever, I think, purposely malicious. You know, and that's hard for me even to sometimes remember. Every time I've been on set, I take away something, like a good thing that I know will help me the next time. So one thing I always do, especially if like PA and like water bottles, like I always number them, and like because you know production's constantly trying to save money, so I always get a 24 pack of water, and whether I'm PAing myself or I have a PA, you know, I have my own PA to do it, I always just number the water bottles like 1 through 20. And it's just a way to cut down on costs to save money, so you're not constantly running out and wasting time. Um, you know, so that's a cool little trick.
So people know what their bottle is.
So people, so people can keep track of their bottles, so
don't
there's
throw
no
away.
waste.
Yeah.
Yes.
Swap caps.
And yeah. And it takes like 30 seconds, and that 30 seconds might save you $10 in the long run. And if you say you're on a feature and you do that, you know, 5 times, that's close to 50 $100 or whatever, you know. And then something else I've always noticed working on a bunch of sets is like locations. A lot of times you're tricky. Sometimes you'll have your call sheet, and especially if I've been like a location manager, AD, I always try to get there first. And I usually take like a selfie, or not a selfie, but I take a picture of the actual door. A lot of times I just try to get like actual pictures where I park at, where parking is, that angle from parking, and I'll like put in the picture that I'm taking my finger pointing to the door. And I know that sounds almost like,
no, I mean you've done it for our group meets too.
And I've learned it, and I've learned even like that saves time. You know, those little things, just making stuff super easy and almost dummy proof sometimes. Because I know I've been to set, and it's just like, yeah, like especially like apartments and stuff like
you
that.
brought a little pop-up Arthur.
Arthur.
It's like, hey, go to Arthur at the door.
But I think that's huge, man. I mean,
Arthur the Aardvark.
We had this other production we worked on one time, and the dress wasn't really working. The GPS was a little off from the actual location, which is there again why it's so important for pre-production, and to have a location manager if you can. And so what we did to save time was there was a parking lot right up the road, which is a mile up the road. So we timed it within the schedule. We had somebody go pick up people and actually bring them to the location, instead of just trying to shuttle people into this location that almost didn't exist on the GPS.
Yeah. We had to do that recently for our film challenge, where there was a parking lot, but like all the streets in the neighborhood were just like people parked on the street. So there was no parking at the house. So we had to shuttle people back and forth from the parking lot at the clubhouse. So, and that worked out. It wasn't too far, but obviously you got to get some in there, the fans loaded with gear and stuff like that. But
it's the things you learn, for sure. And then another thing that is just something recently I just started doing. So a lot of times if you're working in people's houses, you always want to be super respectful. You know, make sure you have tennis balls on your C-stands, and make sure everything's put back. And I used to be like, when I was in like a above the line kind of role or whatever, like AD or something, I'd be like, hey, to the PAs, can you guys go take pictures? And I'm like, go take a bunch of pictures. And so you hear a bunch of pictures. I think a lot of times on set, you need to be really, really clear exactly what you want. So I've had people take a lot of pictures, and it's like super tight pictures of a room, and in the day we go put it back, and it's impossible because I wasn't clear exactly what we needed. So I think a lot of times, I usually say now, I'm like, I need 15 to 20 good pictures wides of every 4 corners of the room. And I say it just like that, because then it makes it so much easier to be super exactly what you want, be super clear exactly what you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
this is a side note, I'll probably cut it, but it really bothers me that BTS photographers like only focus on the director and the DP. Like, there are 1,500 other people on this set. Go get them in their element.
Of course,
like,
for sure.
What is a good producer profile pic? Holding a clipboard? Like what?
I think maybe crying.
Yeah.
Crying, stressing out.
Sitting at the computer.
Yeah.
On the phone, something. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Chad, for coming in.
Yes, sir.
Talking about being a Renaissance man on set. And thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to see the show notes, you can go to indiefilmhub.org. Is that right? .net? Oh, shoot.
One of those guys.
I always forget what it is. I said it wrong the first 3 podcasts, and I just had to cut it out.
I was wondering when I was trying to find it, and I was like, this isn't right.
Yep, that's it. There's a website. If you want to see our faces, you can go to our YouTube page, Indie Film Hub, and check out this podcast on YouTube. And if you just want to listen to it, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And also to see the show notes, go to indiefilmhub.org and check out all the information there. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.